Three, two, one, and we are on. This is SHB Unfiltered, a podcast. Episode number what, Chris?
51.
51. Episode 51. So we are 51 episodes into the only podcast featuring people who started that stream every single day, running live feeds, live Q&A, open forums on Facebook Live. You'll find us on YouTube, on Spotify, on iTunes, Instagram, Twitter, you name it. Even on the street, you'll find us. My name is Ruben Pillai, and I'm here with Christopher Jackson, CJ. How's it going, brother?
It's going good. It's going good. How's it going for you today?
Today's been pretty busy, to be honest. You'd be surprised for a Sunday, but today has been really busy. Started the day off with the SHB Reading Club. Got my speech practice in for the day, which was really good. We had about 7 people on today and engaged in some cool discussions. I want to get onto that in a second, actually. But after that, had a coaching call for about 45 minutes, 40 minutes maybe, which is good. Then caught up with UFC 249. Chris, you almost spoiled it for me, but I'm so lucky, or you're so lucky I watched it before. I watched the main and the co-main event. I'm going to go back and smash out the rest later on. And I was general evaluator for Advanced Orators, which is a Toastmasters club in Manchester over Zoom. So as general evaluator, you are a guest evaluator. And your job is to evaluate every single thing about the meeting, from the format, the welcoming, the Toastmaster, and all the functionaries that don't normally get evaluated. So I was under a lot of pressure as a guest, and coming from a good club, introduced myself, and they were very welcoming and had a good time. It was a good Sunday. And that was all by 12:30 p.m. How impressive is that, Chris?
Well, that's like a week's worth of work, isn't it, Ruben?
Something like that. So, Chris, go and try and top that. How was your day?
I'm never going to try to attempt it. I'm not going to try to attempt it, but the day started off with me doing a drive-by happy birthday. Not the type of drive-by that people thought I was going to say, but just driving by a friend of my dad's who's 60 years old today. Happy birthday, Mickey. Just drive by wishing him a happy birthday. And then for the rest of the day, I've been working on some charity stuff today, which has taken up most of my day today. And I still have to do more when we get off of this podcast. So that's what my day's been filled with.
Very, very cool, Chris. Very, very cool. So today, before we get into the meat of things, I just want to say another thank you to everyone who showed us a lot of love yesterday for the big 50th episode. I'm still going through feedback, so I'll be creating various posts and things just to commemorate and celebrate this achievement that we have had. And so yeah, again, thank you very much. We had loads of people joining on for certain periods of time, people commenting, asking questions. So we thank everyone who took time out of their day to actually check in on us and see what we were getting up to. And yeah, let's on to the next 50. I think it's pretty timely as well, as today we're doing podcasts a bit earlier on, as man like Boris has his update at 7. So let's see where this lockdown, what's going to happen to it, whether it gets lifted, partially lifted or not lifted, we'll see. But it's very important because the future of the podcast depends on this update, right, Chris?
Yeah, it does. I wanted to ask you, what's your predictions for what you think Boris is going to announce today?
I think we're going to stay in lockdown, and purely because just an hour ago, Angela Merkel from Scottish PM, she announced the same. So I would assume that the rest of the UK would stay consistent with her announcement. I would be very surprised if people diverged or diverted, because that's not very cool, is it? We should be, because we're so close in proximity to Scotland, I would assume that the precautions and restrictions would be the same. Chris, do you think Boris will give an update on SHB Unfiltered as well?
Yeah, I was expecting that to be the main announcement, and then things to do with the lockdown will be announced after that, just as a little side thing. But no, on a serious note, I think we will stay in lockdown. But I feel like a lot of people are preparing for him to lift it, not fully lift it, but make it a lot more lenient. But I still don't really feel like people are taking the lockdown seriously, even though we're 7 or 8 weeks into it. So
yeah, I think you get a mix of people, because I know in the US, some people have taken it into their hands to actually just restart business, because they're like, we can't carry this on because business is going bust. They're going to lose everything they work for. So they've just restarted bars and restaurants in certain states, and they are back to normal. Well, back to normal, except wearing face masks. Because they said, look, like, yeah, we've been in lockdown now for 6-7 weeks. We can't carry this on, or we won't be able to survive. And I thought that's been a very interesting take, because, like, where have you seen, well, people in masses defy government direction in the first world?
well, to be honest, I think that Britain are pretty good at that. If I'm honest, I know that the lockdown hasn't been the most strict lockdown possible, but I saw a photo of Victoria Park in Hackney yesterday. It's just ridiculous, the amount of people that are out. It's actually ridiculous. I appreciate the weather was nice. It was sunny, but it doesn't feel like a real lockdown. It just feels like we're being told to not go to work. So all the stores are closed, but everyone's still able to go out about their business. You know, you see people on the street as you drive past, they're all standing there talking to each other. There's less than 2 meters apart from people talking on the street. You know, they don't come from the same household or don't live together. So I just think the way it's been managed here in more recent times, it's like it's already been lifted and we're not really taking it that seriously. But yet we still had almost 4,000 new cases yesterday. So it's crazy.
There's a lot for like the government and us to actually understand, because the situation does keep changing to a point where we didn't even know if we even have it, if we'll get it, or if we've got it and pass through it, or if it pass on to anyone. At some point, are we going to get it this year? Who knows? And most importantly, will they make vaccination mandatory? That I do not know. But what I do know, Chris, is we are on episode 51. Do you know what that means?
It means we've passed the half-century mark.
It definitely does. That's really good maths. But I'm going to really put you on the spot today.
Oh, God.
I know.
Oh, God.
Because, to be honest, I didn't have a specific topic planned, but in our pre-chat, you alluded to me, or even told me that you were working on something today. I want you to explain in layman's terms, through stories, experiences. You don't have to go into theory straight away. Even do it one by one. We can do it together. Talk to me about John Harrison's Hexagon. Chris's face is full of enthusiasm. I love it.
Oh, God.
Take a screenshot of that.
Oh my God. Talk you through John Harrison's Hexagon.
Feel free to pull up any notes, pull up the videos you've been working on, pull up anything you want to use, and have a few minutes just to like think it through. In the meantime, I will give a brief intro to the hexagon. So for those listening on, the hexagon isn't just some funky shape that you learn about in primary school. It has many more exciting properties. So John Harrison is, I would say, he's the godfather of kind of the theory of the stuttering mindset. So he wrote a fantastic book called Redefining Stuttering that we've all read, that kind of forms the basis of our philosophy here at SHB. And he devised a thing called Hexagon, which many other programs now use. And they attribute to that concept, that theoretical shape, to him. And the hexagon has distinct points that are different features or facets of what makes us a person. And essentially, we need all of those aspects to be in balance with each other to be successful in a certain thing. It could be speech, it could be career, it could be relationships, it could just be social performance in general. But our hexagon, so you're going to hear that a few times in this podcast, our hexagon, if all the points are at their peak in kind of a certain situation, then it means we are performing well. And each point is linked to each other. So if one aspect is out of sync, say for example, if you have a perception about something or someone, but it isn't in agreement with your actions around them, then it can affect your performance around them. But if your perception about someone is in sync with your actions, then you are more likely to be kind of performing well in the environment of that person. And there's other points that I'll let Chris delve into, because I think he looks ready to actually educate us and wow us about the John Harrison hexagon. He's shaking his head saying, yes, I can't wait. Chris cannot wait. So Chris, over to you for the next 45 minutes. I'm joking.
The next 45 minutes. No, but just overview, the way that I look at John Harrison's hexagon is I like to rename it the subconscious hexagon, because it's how the subconscious mind of a person that stutter kind of operates. And for me, I use it as an analytical tool. A lot of people use it as a proactive tool. I like to use it more as an analytical tool as well. I like to analyze what happened in any given speaking situation, because we enter speaking situations that we come out of them and we feel like, yeah, that went really well, and no, that didn't quite go to plan. And there are 6 points on the hexagon for obvious reasons. Let me just bring it up. So the first point of the hexagon is a physical state. So this is all to do with how you're feeling at any given time. So things that can affect it is your lifestyle at the time. Are you getting enough sleep? What type of food are you eating? Are you living a healthy lifestyle? All these different things. And for me, when you're tired, you're not looking after yourself, it does affect your speech and your ability to implement things. Now, the next...
Whoa, CJ. I've got something to add actually, which might be an interesting take. So have you ever heard of an idea called state management?
No, enlighten me.
I will. But these like proper basic explanations, as my understanding is pretty basic, but it's better than nothing.
That's
so state management is used in hypnosis and taught in NLP. And it's an idea where you have to kind of be in charge of your physical state and be kind of aware of where you are, what surroundings you're in, and how you are perceived, etc. physically. One kind of thing that can affect it is, like, say for example, we've been talking about our hair for the last 7 weeks now. We can't get a haircut. The hair is part of our physical state, which is on the hexagon. Now, if you can't get a haircut, how does that make you feel?
Are you asking me personally?
Yeah.
It can make me feel frustrated. It can stress me out a little bit.
Yeah. So, like, going a bit deeper now, look at the hexagon points. What do you think people will perceive about you if they see you with like crazy hair that hasn't been trimmed in way too long?
That I don't look after myself.
Exactly. And then is this built into your belief system, and so on and so forth? So then you go around the hexagon, and then this affects your actions. So when it comes to actions, you either make a choice, get a haircut, break the quarantine rules to get a trim, or you force yourself to get a haircut based on these perceptions and beliefs that you have already. Now, something else that can affect state management is your clothes. And one thing that can separate different people with regards to clothes, because there are ways of upgrading your state depending on the things you wear. So if you go to the gym and work out, then you can upgrade your physical state, get yourself into a shape that you're more happy with. And then you can put on clothes that kind of show your structure better, for example. But some people may go to in the extreme. They go straight for the designer brands, but they don't get the right size, or it's too much. And at some point, it feels like the clothes are wearing them as opposed to them wearing the clothes. Now, like, they've tried to upgrade their physical state by investing more in how they look, going crazy with their hair, going crazy with their clothes. But physical state is all about awareness, being fully aware about how you're presenting yourself physically. And if you are being authentic to yourself, then that's the first key step, being authentic to yourself, and then everything else will fall in place. So just thought I would add that as a extra bit to physical state, because it isn't purely just, if I sleep, I'm good. If I don't sleep, I'm tired. It affects everything. This goes down to everything, Chris, from if you get punched in the face and you've got a black eye. What does that mean? How people perceive you? Then what's your beliefs of people who have black eyes? Is that in line with how you perceive yourself? And haircuts, clothes, going to the gym, skinny legs, skinny arms. You train more, train less, run more, run less, etc., etc. So that's my input. I'm done. All back to you, Chris. Keep educating us.
No, thank you very much for that, Ruben. Thank you very much. So to move on to the next point, behaviors on the John Harrigan hexagon. For me personally, you're laughing, Ruben. I'm confused. For me personally, this point is to do with how do you behave when you're approaching any given speaking situation. In general, what is your behavior like? And I'm not just talking about speech. I'm talking about your body language. How do you present yourself? How are you holding yourself? Are you standing up straight? Do you keep good eye contact? Because if you're not, then it will affect the other points of the hexagon that you're that Ruben was just mentioning earlier. Like, you may be perceived as you're nervous, you're unsure, you're incompetent. And then does that then channel into your belief system that we're going to come onto in a minute? And for me, the ultimate behavior is WOMS. You hear us talking about it over and over again, working on our speech. This comes into advertising to the listener that you're working on your speech all the time. You're using every speaking situation to show the listener that you're working on your speech.
And just to check, Chris, so is this a intention that you have or behavior? These
I'll come
are
on
kind
to
of different
intentions
things. Okay.
after, but intentions, the reason why I split up intention, or we can discuss intentions now, is because WOMS is the behavior, but I feel that WOMS clears up any approach avoidance in your intentions. Because when it comes to intentions, you have your apparent intention. I intend to speak, for example. I intend to go into this situation and I intend to speak. But then you also have your hidden intentions as a person that stutters. You may have this conflict going on in your head, a tug of war that, okay, I intend to speak, but I need to hide. I don't want to stutter. I don't know if I'm going to be able to say that word, so maybe I should avoid it. I don't really want them to see that I have a stutter. But when you're working on your speech, there is no tug of war in your head. There is no confusion between what your apparent and your hidden intentions are, because it's clear. You are working on your speech. You are advertising to the listener that you are working on your speech. So that's how I write up. So your behavior affects the intention. Is it apparent, or are you trying to hide something? Is there any approach avoidance? Anything you want to add, Ruben?
Yeah, I think it's more of a question. So when it comes to intentions with working on your speech, what if you have your real conscious intention? So you say, you know what, I'm gonna do this, show someone, working my speech, etc., etc., etc. But then indirectly or subconsciously, you have other intentions where you think, man, I just wanna to speak and not have to worry about applying techniques and doing all this stuff all the time. Now, what happens if you get that clash of interest there? What do you do?
Then, well, what happens when that clash happens is it begins to pull on the behavior point of the hexagon. So that's when you do end up getting in a state of confusion and you do not execute WOMS the way that you know you're supposed to. And we get this question all the time. Why is it working when I talk to you over Zoom, CJ, but when I go to work, I'm not able to implement it? And that, what you just described there, is exactly what is going on in their head.
All right, cool. In terms of addressing it then, is it up to the person to just say, you know what, regardless of what I feel or like these feelings I have, I have to do this. I have to practice WOMs. I have to like really show someone that I'm working my speech, I'm stuttering on purpose, etc., etc., etc. And those voices that you apply will overpower the voice in the back of your head.
I think in terms of applying it, you have to manage your expectation. You're not going to go from 0 to 100 straight away, but you have to focus on gaining small wins. So you have to choose certain situations and you have to apply it there, and you need to see some success in those areas, because then that will start and begin to retrain your belief system, which is the other point on the hexagon. So people get perceptions and beliefs mixed up. I feel that your beliefs are very different to your perceptions, because beliefs are more fixed. They're a lot harder to to change than your perceptions. And your beliefs are usually shaped by one of two things. So your beliefs are shaped through experiences, and I find beliefs are shaped through being told something from an authoritative figure in your life, whether that be a teacher, whether that be a parent, whether that be a celebrity on TV. These people shape your beliefs because you respect them and you trust everything that they say. Or it will be your experiences. So for example, if you have an experience where you wasn't able to say a word, so you wanted to order a Diet Coke in a restaurant, and then you wasn't able to say Diet Coke, and you ended up word swapping that for lemonade. Next time you go to say Diet Coke, you believe in your subconscious mind that you're not going to be able to say it because you've been in this situation many times over and over again and you haven't been able to say it. So that's where your belief system gets shaped.
Do you think that belief system, is that purely something that happens in kind of recent times, or can it start way back when? Because I would have, so for the way I understand beliefs and perceptions, beliefs are kind of ideas that have formed through experiences. Perceptions are kind of ideas that are formed by seeing things from your point of view or just making assumptions. And beliefs are ingrained in you a lot earlier than perceptions. Perceptions come to you a lot later on when you are able to think consciously and have a more developed mind. But beliefs are kind of coded in you through your parents and people around you from the age of 1 to 3 years old. And I think it's easier to change perceptions because these are more recent programmings into your mind. And also perceptions are, because they are assumption based, if you end up seeing kind of fact, then it's easier to undo them. The problem comes when your perceptions and your beliefs are in a meeting point. So you struggle to actually change your perception because you are counteracting your beliefs. And it's something that's quite hard to understand generally. But relating it back to stuttering, if you have always believed that you can't stand up and do a talk or speech or something in that sense, then regardless of the messages you get from people or things you see on TV and practices that you do, you will always be thinking, oh my God, I seem to go up there, I'm going to block and block and block. And you will always believe that that is the outcome. Those are your beliefs because they have been ingrained in you from a long time ago, and you've got the messages and experiences that are hard coded into your brain. The way you actually have to undo them is through massive change. By massive change, I don't mean being around the bush and reading a few books. I mean applying any techniques and going into those situations and doing it again and again and again and again and again and again and again. Change those beliefs. And I've been doing this now for 3.5 years or whatever. And I think now is the time when beliefs are starting to change properly. And it's taken years and years and years for me to get to this point of, and Chris can tell me, it isn't just me popping in and out and doing a bit of ones here and there. This is me. I've been actively working on my communication, my public speaking, and doing all these events and talks and mentoring and coaching, years and years and years. And I feel that now is time when these beliefs are changing, because I truly believe that I can go up in any arena and smash it. And that's not me creating perceptions based on things I've seen myself do in the past. That's not perception because I did one talk the other day and I think I can do it. I truly believe that I can do it. And this has now been hard coded into me. So I think that's my interpretation of the difference between the two. Go on, Chris.
Yeah, because beliefs, the only way to change your beliefs, especially when it comes to stuttering, is replacing negative thoughts with positive experiences. But your negative thoughts come from previous negative experiences. Now, the problem with this for us stutterers, and the reason why a lot of people fall off or they give up or they don't believe anything will work, is because they're not aware initially of how many positive experiences you need to have to start to reshape your belief system. It's not one or two experiences. Just because you couldn't say Diet Coke before and then you were able to say it today, your whole belief system is not now fixed. It's not embedded in your subconscious mind that you are no longer going to stutter the next time that you go and order Diet Coke. Like Ruben was using the example of being able to get up in front of any arena and speak on a public stage. That's because Ruben's put himself on the line time and time again over the last 3 or 4 years at Toastmasters, and he's been consistent with it. So he's had many, many experiences to prove to himself that he can do it. And that's something that I have to do myself, because public speaking is, obviously, I've said it before, it is a goal of mine to accomplish. I have spoken publicly a good few times, and they have gone really well. But to say that I believe I can get up and talk in front of anyone, anywhere, yes, I do believe it, but I need to prove it to myself. So, okay, moving on, Ruben. Moving on to the next point.
What's next on the amazing Hexagon, Chris?
So, we've been through physical state, behavior, beliefs, perception, emotions. Now, for me, emotions is one that I find
emotional.
Sorry?
I feel like you're getting a bit emotional, Chris, talking about your emotions.
No, because it's a difficult one to get a hold of, especially when you're stuttering and you're blocking and you're feeling embarrassed, you feel guilt, you feel shame. These are emotions that we can only desensitize to over time. But because of these emotions, it does pull on every other aspect. Because we're feeling these emotions, our perceptions are running wild with us in our head, our belief system's going crazy, our physical state. I mean, having these emotions can really affect your physical state, which then affects how you behave. And for me, when my emotions have been too high, the speaking situation hasn't gone very well for me. And a big part of my progress was learning how to manage my emotions and desensitize myself to these emotions so that I wasn't dwelling on them for too long, and I was able to go again and pick myself back up. Anything to add, Ruben, on that one?
Yeah, I would say, would emotions be influenced by your perceptions, or would it be the other way around? Most likely.
That's a good question. I think it can be influenced by your perceptions, because embarrassment usually comes from what you perceive people to be thinking of you. And embarrassment is usually the biggest emotion that we feel when we're actively in the block. So I would say that perceptions do highly affect your emotions. But then your emotions will then start to trigger what you believe in. So if you feel guilt and you feel shame about your stutter, then that affects your belief to get your words out, which then triggers your perceptions on what you believe people to think of you. So it's crazy because they're all intertwined. They all affect one another. I see you scratching your head, Ruben, on that one.
No, I was just thinking because I would think that certain people may be influenced more by their perceptions rather than their emotions. So if you think of someone who's very kind of methodical, do you think they would have these emotional kind of peaks and troughs when they are about to speak? Or would they purely be thinking about kind of previous times and thinking about it in a more structured way? So say, for example, Kenny, he may go to a talk and stutter, but I can't see him actually consciously getting these peaks and troughs in his emotions. But he may be conflicted with his certain beliefs or perceptions of what people think of him if he's going to block and this kind of stuff. But I think that the emotions would be secondary to that. So those would impact his emotions as opposed to someone like yourself or there's people that we know who are more emotionally charged. So more likely to, regardless of whether a certain person smashed 2 or 3 public speeches last year, they still may feel embarrassment when they do speeches. That's an emotion. So even though their belief system is trying to change, they are still held back by their emotions, if that makes sense.
I think that it boils down to how desensitized you are. If you're not desensitized, then obviously your emotions are going to continue to control you and continue to stop you from executing whatever you are trying to execute. You refer to someone like Kenny, who I know is big on Toastmasters as well. So, for example, for him to get up and do a public speech, he's had the experience. He's able to, he's got experience in controlling his emotions during tough times and pressurized times. There's people that stutter that avoid those times. They don't know how to react in those times. They run away from them times as much as possible. And if they're not putting themselves in that situation week in, week out, then it's going to take them a lifetime to try and get over it and find a way to be able to deal with these emotions to the point that they no longer tend to feel these emotions because they don't really trigger much, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah. I've got a question about that then. So they're going to have these perceptions and beliefs, and and for them to desensitize and start to change this, they have to desensitize and detach emotionally from stuttering. Now, if they're going to Toastmasters every week, for example, and constantly standing up, but if they are constantly like blocking every week and having like mad embarrassing experiences, then can you see that actually helping their emotional system? Or are they adding to it or adding to the stress? Or is there benefits in other areas of the hexagon? Tough question.
It's a tough one because for me, I wouldn't be approaching that situation without working on my speech, without having that WOMS mentality. So I'm struggling to put myself in the shoes of someone who just has a stutter and decides to turn up to Toastmasters. So yeah, I think it depends. I think it depends on their intentions and how persistent they are with it.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking, because I think we touched upon it a few episodes ago, but when we're talking about our kind of pasts, so growing up with stuttering, for example, even though I was like having these kind of feeling a bit embarrassed and belief system, I didn't believe I could do public speaking or run a business or be a manager, etc. My aim was to trump everything with my intentions. So I was always putting myself out there, push myself, regardless of the other parts of the hexagon. And so just by focusing on one area for years and years and years, it managed to take my life to a certain point. However, it was only after I started to address the other areas, that's when things started to actually like break through the next ceiling and so on and so forth. So each area has a lot of value, each area, but just by me focusing on intentions, yes, it did a world of good, but you can't purely just focus on one thing. You need to be targeting other things. You can't just focus on perceptions, or you just sit there thinking, oh, they think stuttering's fine, they think stuttering's okay, they think stuttering's cool, but you could be still feeling embarrassed even though you perceive that like people think it's okay, because like certain or quite a few stuttering charities, they are trying to spread this message. So you start to believe that, okay, I perceive stuttering is okay, yeah. But then are your intentions matching your perceptions and your beliefs? If you really think stuttering is okay, then are you actually chasing after things that aren't generally in line with stuttering behavior? Or is it because you believe, oh no, I can't take up a managerial role because I stutter, for example? So yes, you can tackle one point, but you need to be tackling on multiple fronts to actually make a lot of progress. So that's what I took from the hexagon exercise just now. Just by talking about it, you can start to relate it to different parts of your life and see how you have indirectly applied it. Have you got any examples yourself?
Yes, I have got an example. When Stephanie and I launched my business, I always had a perception that everyone that comes to work for us will always feel like they're working for Steph and not me. And they would not really want to take instruction from me. They'd want to take instruction from Steph, because I have a stutter and they're not going to take me seriously. So what I would do is anything I wanted to tell the staff, I would be telling Steph to tell them, because I thought it held a lot more substance coming from her than me, which I learned now that was my perception, pure perception. It's how you behave, it's how you come across that makes people buy into you and your vision. It's not just the words. It's about everything about you, your whole aura, your intention, everything. They have to believe in you. And because of the way I was behaving, as a result of that perception, it was actually coming to life. I did feel like I did truly believe at that point that people that were working for us, they wasn't really taking me very seriously as a figurehead within our business. And that was because I was avoiding, I was hiding. So they're like, well, he's never really spoken to me much. So why am I really going to listen to him or respect him? I don't really know much about him. I don't know if he even likes me as a person. I don't know if he thinks I'm doing a good job or not.
So in that sense, sorry to interject, but in that sense, did your intentions, i.e. I don't mean intentions, sorry, but did your behaviors now start to match what you perceived?
Yeah.
What you were perceiving them to actually think?
Yeah. So I was allowing them to do that. I was allowing people that were working for me to kind of treat me like I wasn't the boss. Like I was on an employee level. Like I was also looking at Steph for instruction, and that we were able to discuss things on the same level when no, actually, I'm the boss and this is my vision as well. So my behaviors were matching everything, but everything was matching in a negative way. And I'd be at work and my shoulders would be slouched and I wasn't making eye contact with people and I wasn't coming across as how you would envision the boss of a company too. And then after, my intention to change that was what saw it through and made me achieve that. So everything was matching originally, but in a negative way. All the points on my hexagon were negative, negative, negative. And then I was beginning to change them once my intention was fixed, and I persevered with that intention.
Very, very, very applicable story. So that's a good way to actually apply the hexagon to actual behaviors and actual emotions and tension that you were feeling at that point. How did you, like thinking back now, so you embarked on WOMs, etc., but did you start to actually influence them first before influencing yourself? So by that point, did you start to, so when you change your intentions to WOMs, so you want to show people that you're working on your speech, etc., at that point, did you still perceive the same thoughts, and did you still believe that like kind of like these people don't treat me like the boss? And but did you start to change your behaviors first before changing your perceptions and beliefs, or was it intentions and then you started to perceive that no, as in they know I'm the boss, and then you believe it that way? So was it behaviors first or perceptions first? That's the question.
Yeah, it went intention, behaviors, and then perceptions. Because even when I was behaving it, I was still perceiving that I kind of had it in my mind that you're acting this way, but it's not really real. They still don't really see you as the boss. But what happened for me, which was interesting and it was quite frustrating at the same time, is a couple of people that were working for us left. They left the business for whatever reason. And then when we hired new people, I had a fresh start. But what would have been nice is to kind of implement it with the people that I had the original perception with. But when the new people came in, I had a fresh start to then go again. And that's when things changed for me, because they arrived as I was working on my speech. So it was me now implementing WOMs with brand new people.
Very, very, very good advice to anyone paying attention, because like I know some of the stuff can be a bit overcomplicated at times, but essentially Chris changed his intentions to show that he's someone working on a speech, someone who stutters, and wanted to change his behaviors in front of people. So go on, Chris.
It wasn't only speech related though. This is why the hexagon can be applied to different areas of life. So for example, my original intention in the business as a whole was to play the back role, to not really make yourself known, to hide in your office and just get on with the financials, with the payroll, with the invoicing, with all the admin stuff, make sure that everything's running legally. That was my intentions originally. And those intentions were as a result of having a stutter and not believing that I was good enough or was able enough to do anything else. So once my intentions changed with my speech, I then changed my intentions at work. So what do I intend to do at work now? What other roles are you you going to be taking on? Are you going to be getting involved in staff reviews? Are you going to be getting involved with staff discussions? Are you going to be interacting with staff more at lunchtime? What's your intention now? Or are you still going to just intend to speak, intend to advertise, but still intend to play the same role at work? And that's the question that I had to ask myself. And once I changed the two of them, it was a good combination for success.
Very, very good, Chris. Very, very good. And if anyone else can think about these things and apply it, because I know at times we get very conceptual. We talk about all this theory about mindset and all that kind of stuff. But a good starting point is just ask yourself now, like tomorrow, what do I want to do with my speech? I've been practicing techniques. Do I want to apply it or not? These are your intentions, and really ask yourself, like, kind of, I've got a choice, apply techniques or not. Now apply techniques and change your behaviors in certain situations. Now, bit by bit, you start addressing other areas, but just focus on these two for now. Focus on these two. So if anyone can take anything away from this podcast, and this actually applies to any different area in your life. If someone wants to be a professional athlete, that's your intention. That's your intention. But are your behaviors matching that? Are you like on kind of a strict diet? Are you training every day, doing laps or press ups in the morning? Are your behaviors in line with your intentions? Because you could believe, oh, I'm going to be the best, but if you aren't doing the hard work, then your behaviors aren't in line with your beliefs and your intentions. So for anyone paying attention, like, think about these aspects and try and apply it. So we've got, for example, not sure if he's still on, but Chris Papacosta, CJ's cousin. So Chris Papacosta intended to start a podcast, and he started his own podcast, The People's Pundit. Now he wants to make this podcast big. Is Chris Papacosta, are his behaviors matching that? Is he looking to put his podcast on a bigger platform? Is he getting in contact with the different fan sites, different outlets? Is he trying to put his podcast onto bigger platforms and getting other people to spread the word? If that is his intention, is his behaviors matching that? And kind of that's an example of applying this to something completely different to stuttering itself. You can apply it to school, to careers, relationships. If you like a girl and you want to go out with them, are you actually going to go and ask them out, or speak to their friends, or do anything to actually take action on that intention? So before we wrap up, I just wanted to leave you with those points. And this was a bit of a sideways, backwards introduction to the Hexagon, but I think we did a good job of actually applying experiences to the concepts, because if you go to any stuttering talks, they probably won't mention that much, but if they do, simply talk about the shape, talk about kind of basic things about this affects that, and if this is all good, then you're good. If this is not good, then you're down. But these are practical examples and take action points for you to apply straight away. So I'm going to hand it back to CJ. Have you got any closing points that you want to add to this podcast?
Just a closing point from me, just to throw another spanner in the works for you, Ruben.
Ooh, go for it.
The Hexagon is a brilliant framework. It's a great analytical tool as well, but it's not to be used as a continuous excuse. And the reason why I say that is because many times I hear people come to me and they say, I had a bad speaking experience, my Hexagon was off. And then they'd come back to me a couple of weeks later, yeah, my physical state was bad, my intentions were bad. And you keep hearing this over and over again. Okay, your Hexagon was off. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do? You have to use it productively. You can't just be using it to analyze poor speaking situations to find a reason or find an excuse for yourself in that moment. You have to use this framework to then persevere and take action. And those are my final words on the hexagon.
Just to add to that, if someone says like my hexagon was off, to be honest, they don't understand the hexagon, because your hexagon is never on, and sorry, it's always on. It's never off. It's just either in a poor state or in a better state, and that's simply it. If they didn't have a good speaking situation, then they have to identify why. Look around the hexagon. Was it something that you have had in the past with a certain experience that coming back, or did you intend to show you were working on your speech? Did you do that? And then if so, did your behavior match that? Did you do any prep before? Did you go in there confidently? State management, how were you presenting yourself? Did you walk in there confident, happy, posture up? Or did you go in there nervous, looking down and not being yourself in the same way, Chris? Like, you haven't had a haircut for a while now, and neither have I as well. And this isn't like a basic kind of example, but this is a true thing where this isn't your peak hair. This isn't my peak hair. So this will have an effect on our state, because we will be aware that we haven't had a haircut in a while. And it's only after a while you start to, if this carries on, then this becomes normal. Like so many times I've seen people go to the barbers, get a haircut, and come out feeling refreshed, feeling confident. And it isn't just by chance or just them like feeling that way just because they got a trim. It's state management. They have got their hair to its optimum state. If they have a good barber, that is.
Yeah.
So Chris, I'm gonna rein it back in. I'm gonna say thank you very much for whoever was listening to our mumbo jumbo today. I want to say get your drinks ready, be it coffee, water, beer or wine. Got Boris tuning in at Boris o'clock, 7 p.m. I'm excited because we like the B team or the reserves. He's coming out today, yeah. Hopefully. We'll see. And we'll see what happens. We'll see if we are still podcasting this week, Chris. But I'll be watching anxiously.
I'm sure we will be.
And just a quick word, just to say, Ayo Adesanya, wherever you are, hope you're well. We missed you today. Missed your input. And we look forward to having you back on when you pick up your phone. CJ, final point, and you can close the show out as well.
Just want to say thank you to everyone tuning in. Look forward to podcasting tomorrow, hopefully. And this is SHB Unfiltered podcast, episode 51. I am Chris Jackson. I've been joined by Ruben Pillai. Thank you very much for tuning in. Remember, stop holding back.